Hi, I'm Dantti. In this video I'm going to show you 10 tips you need to know about Blender 2.93. This is a follow-up to my previous grease pencil tips and tricks tutorial, which covers basically the whole workflow. And I'm sure there's something you didn't know before. Check it out. Okay, let's get started. There has been a change how you draw new frames, and that is the Autokey function down here. This needs to be active if you want to draw new frames automatically. If Autokey isn't on, you will draw on the previous frame. This is also the case with Edit mode and Sculpt mode, when you want to create new keyframes when you make changes. This is enabled by default when you open up the 2D animation preset. If you add a new grease pencil object to your existing 3D scene, it doesn't let you draw before you create a new keyframe. Enable Autokeying first or press I in draw mode to add a new keyframe to be able to draw normally. I recommend you set a shortcut or use quick favorites with Autokeying. Also remember to turn it off before you transform your stuff in the viewport, because it will create keyframes on everything you do and it can mess up your scenes. Fill tool has been improved a lot and it's also much faster. If you have a gap in your drawing, the fill is automatically cancelled, so it doesn't fill out the entire scene anymore. Fill tool now also works even when zoomed. Previously you could only fill the visible part of your screen, but now it works like it should. If you have small gaps in your drawing, you can use the stroke extension method. You can find it from the advanced menu. Adjust this value a little, and now when you use the fill tool, it gives you these blue lines that you can adjust with your mouse wheel, or with page up and page down. When the strokes overlap, you know that the fill will work. But sometimes you still might need to fix your drawings if you have left gaps that are too big or have weird orientation. Resolution has been changed to precision. Adjusting this value higher will give you more precise fills. This is especially good with drawings that have a lot of details and pointy edges. Multiframe has been improved and it works now with drawing and filling. You select the keyframes at the timeline you want to affect. Enable multiframe from this icon up here and draw away. This adds the new drawing to all selected keyframes all at once. When you do fills in multiframe mode, you can use the onion skins to see where the strokes are going in each frame, making filling them much easier and time saving. Interpolation has been changed a lot. It is now a tool and the old interpolation menu is gone. You can find this tool here in draw mode and edit mode. When you select it, you can see these settings at the top bar that you can adjust before you do anything. When you have the playhead between two keyframes and drag using this tool, you can easily create breakdown keyframes. If you want to sequence the whole thing, you can use this command up here, or press Shift-Ctrl-E, or use quick favorites. Before you do this, I suggest that you narrow the animation keyframes down here to fit the frames that you want to sequence, because you can tweak your interpolations easier with this menu when you play your animation at the same time, especially with custom curve, where you can now see how adjusting the curve affects the animation. Layer transformations. Now you can transform your grease pencil layers easily and directly from the properties. Select your grease pencil object, go to Object Data Properties, choose the layer you want to transform, and down here you can adjust or animate these values. Animation keyframes are visible on the dope sheet. No need to do this in 3D view anymore, or by using the offset modifier if you don't want to. If you want to reset these values, just hover your mouse over them and press backspace to get the default values. Now you can duplicate your layers, but with empty keyframes. This is really handy if you already have a rough animation going and you want to clean it up or start doing coloring. You can move between the keyframes with up and down arrow keys. If you have a large scene, make sure the layer is selected where you want the jump to affect. Trace images, that is nowadays found in the Convert menu, does have a new option to trace images starting in the current frame. You can use this especially with video footage. You can easily scrub the timeline and trace a single image or a whole sequence that starts from that frame. Noise Modifier now has a new noise offset value. What this does is you can offset the placement and add keyframes to make the animation more interesting, and to have different variations of speeds of the noise modifier. Lattice Modifier limit has been removed. Previously you could only add one lattice to your grease pencil object. Not anymore. This change now allows you to build more and more complex rigs. And the best thing ever is that lattice objects also support shape keys. So you can animate more easily this way, if it's your thing. Long developed line art branch aka LandPR by Yiming Wu has finally been merged into Blender. Now you can use grease pencil to cast lines to your 3D objects. This means also grease pencil modifiers and effects do work with this feature, which is awesome. You can find this under the grease pencil menu. You can add line art to scene, collection and object. You can also set this manually within the grease pencil object by selecting line art modifier, but this way is a lot faster. This creates a new line art object where you can adjust the edge type, crease, style and so forth. There's a lot to tweak here, and I suggest you read the manual when it comes out. I recommend you view from the camera so you can see how the changes are applied. When you move the view and not the camera, you can see that the lines are projected differently. This works like you would normally draw in grease pencil. If your 3D object has animation, you can use the baking tab to bake the grease pencil lines. When you have done the baking, you can hide or move your 3D model if you want to create more stylized stuff. So great! You can also use multiframe editing. Select the keyframes and reproject them to front to get a more 2D look that you can color more easily. Line art is a very good alternative for freestyle, because you don't need to render first to see the changes you have made. I cannot wait to see what creative solutions people come up with this tool. Pure awesome. I have also made a list of useful grease pencil shortcuts you can download at Gumroad for free, and a texture process and fills pack to give more power to your creative projects. Remember, anything I said in this video can and most likely will change over time. You can read the changelog at Blender Wiki. Alright, thanks for watching, I'm Dantti and see you next time.